Welcome to Griefline's Courageous Conversations series. Today, we are delighted to have a courageous conversation with Cherie Clonan, the founding director of the Digital Picnic, a pioneering digital marketing agency. Welcome, Cherie. In our prelude to this conversation, we emphasise the diverse manifestations of grief and recognising that it extends beyond the loss of a loved one. As a business owner, who actively advocates for accessibility in content delivery and consumption, we recognise you would have witnessed firsthand the complexities, I guess, of the neurodiversity journey. And as part of this, the presence of both waves of grief and moments of joy. So we are very aware that Digital Picnic have been advocating for greater accessibility in workplaces for years, and most recently investing in neurodiversity testing for all employees. Go you. How do we encourage more workplaces to support neurodiverse employees, ensuring inclusivity is genuinely top of mind in the workplace?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that all of us could collectively ponder. The reality is, I think sometimes you need to know better in order to do better. So I think, honestly, organizations just have to commit to diversity within the workplace so that they can, obviously hear from different people across so many different backgrounds and have that opportunity to recognize, I didn't know that, so now I can do better, with that information. I'm obviously really lucky because I'm heading up our company and I do have the experience of, or lived experience of, neurodivergency. I'm a really proud autistic woman, and I speak that language, really well. I understand it well, and it does cultivate a lot of psychological safety right from, honestly, before we hire a team. I'm talking hiring and recruitment, so I've seen situations where I just know a candidate probably would have missed out on a particular opportunity for reasons relating to, I'm going to say discrimination, but it sometimes isn't the way that you think. It's that typical case of, not knowing better, so not able to do better. And yeah, having lived experience, at the helm, I can create those really safe sort of spaces before someone even joins our company. So hiring and, recruitment. And to be really honest, I can think of so many interviews that I've interviewed candidates within who are neurodivergent. And they do, honestly, I guess other people would call it like dump a lot of information around previous workplaces, and there's a lot of trauma, with that, because there's a reason why the stats are, what they are. Something like 36% of neurodivergent adults remaining unemployed throughout their adult lifetime, and even more who are underemployed, so going for roles so far below what they should be doing, just anyway, it's a conversation for another day. But when I hear that dump, I know what recruiters would think in that moment. I know what people leaders might think. I know what HR folk would think, and they would pretty much go for anyway, moving right along. But again, coming back to lived experience, I understand, and I'm trauma informed, and it makes a really big difference. And I do hold a safe place. I understand that the discrimination is filled with so much grief, and I just allow a little more time within that interview setting just for them to be able to verbalize it, and then bring it back to talking about themselves and the role, and so on. So I'm really proud of that. I guess overall, I think it has to start, before you even employ a human being, and you really have to consider inclusive approaches a lot more at the hiring and recruitment phase. And then, yeah, as you said, when they come on board, we're doing what I understand from other people telling me, and I can never make sense of it in my own mind. I'm a really logical, solutions-oriented human, but these folk are describing us as being radical and radically progressive and inclusive, and I honestly think we're just, honouring the human experience, however that presents, and holding a safe space accordingly. So we build inclusion and champion it at as many touch points as we can. I don't think we'd be getting it perfect across every stream, but I'll come back to that case of once we know better, we do better. So that's our commitment. As soon as we know better, we'll do better. And as a small business, we do our very best to, keep learning, investing in learning and development, and trying to do better for the folks that we employ. And what I understand now is hopefully positively influencing folks beyond just our small business, thanks to some of that influence that we have online.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely see you as a pioneer in this space, and we can only hope that more people will follow suit and understand, the opportunities that lay ahead for so many people if you just give them the chance and listen and make space for them.
I couldn't agree more.
So thinking back to a time when inclusion wasn't a priority, and there was that time, and it wasn't that long ago. Perhaps you were feeling a sense of loss and isolation yourself. Where did you turn to, and what resources did you use to support yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm lucky. I'm surrounded by great human beings in my life. So just well-resourced from, the people in my life. But honestly, the conversation I'm having with you today is a really beautiful 360, because your organization has played a big role twice in my life, when I can think of two occasions of just levels of grief I didn't even know what to do with. And it's probably not the grief that people think when they hear of your company and, its commitment. I think it extends so much more beyond, like we were sort of discussing before today's conversation kicked off. It seems to always be that people think death of a loved one, or something to that effect. But for me, the first interactions I had with your organization were actually directly after being diagnosed as an autistic woman. It was later on, it was, an adult diagnosis following my son, which is a really typical route for autistic women. And look, yes, there was celebration eventually. It's just that I felt so grief-stricken that I was so completely missed. And I think my childhood, my schooling years, friendships that I found really challenging with some of the girls/women, they didn't say what they meant or mean what they said. And I just used to think I was a genuinely terrible friend, and found myself mostly socializing with boys and then men because I liked their directness. I never felt tricked or, gaslit, to be really honest. So you can only imagine like all of the grief that really, it was like a volcano, kind of eruption. I felt a little bit angry at my dad. As much as I love him, I just thought, Dad, how'd you miss it? It was so blatantly obvious. Not his fault. We just didn't have the education, back then. And just lots of those kind of things. So that was the first interaction. But then to fast track to second interactions I had with your incredible organization was around the time that my son was very severely discriminated within a local school. And I can't even describe the lengths of the discrimination, but it created a really unsafe place for him to be in as a child within the school setting. He was very seriously physically assaulted. He required emergency surgery. Nearly lost an internal organ off the back of that particular assault. And my husband and I just, I'll never forget, honestly, sitting bedside at the Royal Children's in Melbourne, and it was a rock bottom for both of us as parents. We never thought our ray of sunshine, just our incredible little boy, would be subjected to, what he was within that particular school setting. And I realized I'm not angry at the child who was doing that to him. I'm angry at the leadership within that school who made that possible, took no action, even awarded the child in question multiple assembly awards and so on. You couldn't even write, you couldn't even write a book about it.
Yeah.
And we'd been such celebrators of the school, partners, everything you'd want in parents. Like, we passionately believe in education and teaching. So it was just the most grief I think I've ever experienced as a parent. And I guess during that time, you can't do it alone. You can't carry that solo, and you just have to reach out to the right people and even anonymous support people who don't know you. And that's what I found. So it's a really beautiful, like 360 now today to be able to speak with you. And we're a long way away from that time and, you know, that day. And it was a rock bottom moment for our family. But yeah, we got through it. And these days we're celebrating being on the other side of that, and really beautiful things have come off the back of that, you know, rock bottom. We know what we'll never accept again. That's for sure, as a family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that is just a harrowing account of what you went through. And I guess there's a really important message there, which is that, you know, you did come out the other side. And while in the midst of it, you probably felt, how are we ever going to recover from this? With the support of each other, you and your partner as well. And hopefully, you know, with your community and other resources, that there was a way that you found through it. And I'm really pleased that you were able to achieve that as well, because it can be a very disabling experience and also paralyzing in a way, when you may not know where to reach out to get the support that you need emotionally as well as resourcefully as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're aware that our organisation is taking steps to improve the accessibility of access to our programs and services and resources, particularly on our website. How much of an impact do you think that will, I guess, make to have better digital tools in the lives of diverse and isolated individuals?
Yeah, I think it's really powerful, honestly. We can't leave people behind, you know, and I really want to see a world that includes all and holds a safe space, you know, for all. And we've touched on parts of this in today's, you know, beautiful conversation. But, you know, going back to that particular time that I was just talking about before, obviously, when a little one goes through something like that, they're genuinely traumatized. And I remember at the time we tried everything as parents. We um, partnered up with specialists who are trauma informed and specialize in PTSD, which was, you know, what our son was experiencing. But the reality is he was so traumatized, he couldn't even access that support. So we actually ended up partnering up with a professional who allowed him to have virtual sessions with her and do nothing but on-screen back and forth chat. And I never thought I never thought that could be so powerful to help in that particularly early piece. So I guess, again, like thinking of someone who's got the lived experience of needing additional tools that you would never think about until, you know, you're in that position yourself, and just being able to see finally someone reaching our son, you know, in ways that we needed them to do professionally so that we could remain to be his parents and not psychologists, psychiatrist, psychotherapist. I wanted to be his mum, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. So I'm just so thrilled to hear about the commitment you're making to, you know, accessibility and inclusion, and thinking about all of the different ways that people, you know, speak. Obviously, in neurodivergency land, communication styles are really different. When I was a young child, and this is again going back to dad, how didn't you know? But I had an entire year where I was selectively mute, which is a really typical, you know, feature within autistic profiles. I just stopped talking one day. I just couldn't say any words for a full 12 months. And it just fills me with hope thinking that now, this year, 2024 and beyond, we've come such a long way, you know, and people have the tools that they need to be able to access the support that they need in any particular moment.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I love the accessibility feature that we've added to our website, because it does allow you to change the colors and the backgrounds and the fonts. It helps with spacing of font as well, and it even shapes the font in different ways so that it can be read by people who have different ways of consuming content. And it's just, I didn't even know it existed until 6 months ago, and I'm so thrilled that there's a resource and a toolbar that can do this to make important information accessible to as many people as possible. So I just want to sincerely thank you very much for sharing your story with us. And you have been super brave, because you have been quite raw and real with many of the experiences that you've had. And we're just really grateful. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us in our conversation with Cherie Clonan, Founding Director of the Digital Picnic. To access more courageous conversations, visit Griefline